AVRant and SVS have teamed up to bring you an unbelievable opportunity. Have you been dreaming of dual subwoofers? Perhaps you'd like to upgrade your entire 5.1 speaker package. Don't have the cash? AVRant and SVS have your back. Go to www.avrant.com right now for your chance to win your choice of dual PB1000 subwoofers or a Prime 5.1 satellite speaker package. Contest ends September 30th. Don't wait. Open to the residents of the United States and Canada. We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
This comes from Anonymous, one of our... And he has asked questions before, I believe, this Anonymous.
Well, I think this was someone who was referred by someone who's asked questions before.
Oh, my goodness. It's just... It goes on and on. It's a rabbit hole I can't get out of. All right. This Anonymous dude just moved to a home near Tampa, Florida. Hey, that's where I am. Which is in an upstairs bonus room he plans to completely gut and build into a dedicated home theater. Now, notice he didn't say anything about basements because he lives in Florida. Because there's no basements here. People do have quote-unquote basements, but they're like at ground level, and all the living spaces above, you're not supposed to put anything down there. People do, but they're not supposed to. All right. He'd like he'd like an approximately 21 by 15 by 9 foot space within the room, depending on the room orientation, open to suggestions, with the rest of the space used for lobby, equipment, etc. 2 rows of seating, 2-3 seats each. For sound, a 7.4.6 system of in-wall speakers except for the subs, 3 fronts, 4 sides, 2 for each row, 2 backs, and I'm sorry, I'm getting lost here. Let me try again.
Yeah,
3 fronts, 4 sides, for 2 for each row, right? So 4 sides. 2 backs plus 4 subs and 6 height channels. So the 2 top fronts and 2 top middles, top middle / back for each room. So
yeah, he's thinking about having like overhead speakers for each row, which I'm not 100% on doing that. If you're going to have all 6 overheads, you might do the insane 3 receiver model of doing it, but I'm not sure I would go for, because that's going to start sounding very diffuse. It's going to be a little bit strange having 4 overhead speakers that are only playing 2.
I think we discussed this the other day. I think we discussed doing, if you're going to do overheads, a bunch of overheads up there, you should do like
wire for it.
Yeah, wire for it, and then test them out.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anyways, he also wants a baffle-walled acoustically transparent screen as well. So that baffle wall means that the entire front wall is treated, along with the acoustically transparent screen, and then all the speakers will be behind that, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
And they're all going to be in-wall speakers.
Right.
So
all around the speakers will be with them. All right. He saved his pennies, and his rough budget is $40,000 for the design and construction alone, and perhaps another $40,000 for equipment. Seems like a lot. He's definitely reached serious business territory. All right, so that's where we're at.
Yep.
He's highly susceptible to sparklies and silk screen artifacts. Are woven acoustically transparent screen materials at this point good enough that he shouldn't worry? Well, I would say that if you're going to do that, you need to talk to Seymour AV. And
Seymour AV, they're ultra fine fabric. If you want to really go for it, I think he's going to be sitting at least 11 feet away. I would assume that in the size of the room that he wants, in which case you don't really need the ultra fine fabric, but I think you have the budget because the Seymour AV screens, they're not cheap, but they're not uber expensive. And I think he'd be able to afford that. Honestly, if you went for the ultra-fine fabric, you would never see an artifact in that thing.
Yeah.
So I think you're very safe going with that choice.
All right, he's looking for as big a sweet spot for the audio as possible. After looking around, he's highly considering the CAF CI THX series, and as he's read, the unique Q wide dispersion pattern can help both with big sweet spots and superior height effects for Atmos and DTS. What do we think of this? I'm okay with that. I would.
If you like them, I have zero beef with them.
Yes. It's the thing. If you've heard them and liked them, if you've read this and you decide that's what you want, that's where I would, I would, if I were putting speakers in a wall, and I wanted a big, wide sound that was very, don't type the thing I'm about to say.
I know you're going to say it. I'm making notes for later, so when I'm putting links
I'm not
into
this
the
predictable.
show notes.
All right. Yes, I would. I'm sorry. He's typing it while I'm talking. That's distracting. We use a Google Doc for our notes, and he's taking notes on the Google Doc while we're doing it. If I was looking for the best possible in-wall speaker, the first place I would look, because they are going to have some reasonable priced ones and some no holds barred ones, is going to be RBH. RBH makes some fantastic speakers. They're in walls, and they will absolutely hook you up with the biggest sound you could ever want. And for me, there's some of the best, especially if you're going to go custom installer, which clearly if you're spending $40K on here, that's what you're going to do. I would highly recommend somebody who works with RBH.
Yep, I can't disagree with that at all. The only thing I would add to it is Focal. Their Electra BE series, they have some really excellent in-wall speakers. One of the things I really like about the Focals is that they are a self-contained sealed speaker.
Right.
So RBH and KEF, they both offer backer boxes. So I'm not worried about them at all. If you're having them professionally installed, they're going to probably insist on putting the backer boxes in there, and they totally exist, and that's no problem. The Focals, though, because one of the things when we start talking about the layout of your room coming up, when Tom will run away to plug in,
we gotta get there. I'm at 22.
Every little bit of depth in your case might actually matter. It might come into play. So the Focals are about as thin as you can get because they don't need a backer box because they're already a sealed speaker. So I'll just throw those out there because they're excellent sounding. So, but honestly, any of these three, like if you said I heard the Kefs and I love them and I'm going for them, I'm like, good on you, man, because those are great speakers.
Yep.
So
yeah. Definitely. This is like normal speaker purchases. This is something you can't really walk away from afterwards. You have to like these at the end. So hear them first. You have a real hard time hearing them in a room that you don't have yet, but hear them first, and hopefully you'll have something. In the end, any of these three speakers, even if you ignore what we say and you go straight with KEF no matter what, I feel like you're going to come away with a speaker system you're going to be very happy with.
Oh, yeah. You went with any of these three. I would be a little bit shocked if you were like really disappointed with any of them. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you won't have a favorite. So that's all we're saying.
All right. He has experience with home theater as an enthusiast, setting up his own front projection and surround sound system, but he wants this build to be handled by a professional, particularly due to the design and construction challenges such as building walls, modifying ductwork, dealing with the AC, dealing with the AC chase. I don't know what that means. And maybe even building an elaborate trap door system to help with overall room access once in the room.
Sounds like he's got some ideas, because I don't know what that
I have
door
no
is
idea
to,
what
but
that's.
He must have his own ideas in his head.
So he knows I live around St. Pete, which is true. So he said, do I know of any trusted designer builder in the Tampa, St. Pete area? Shockingly enough, the people who design and build home theaters don't technically like me very much, because I am telling people a lot of things that they wish they did not know, like turntables are garbage, and I know, I'm sorry, I take that back, they're not garbage. Vinyl records are garbage. The turntables are just fine.
Jeez. Well,
no, and that then upgrading them to these high-end, 96 kilobit, blah 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 kilohertz, blah 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 stuff is ridiculous, and they don't want to hear that. And telling them how to save money and all that, they don't want that. So I don't. I have been to some home theater places. I've seen a lot of vans around, so I know kind of some of the big names. Frankly, I would want to. I would, first of all, if I were you, what I would do is have them come up with a plan. They've got to do this for free. They've got to.
Well, estimates, yeah.
They got to come up with some sort of estimate and a plan. And once you tell them what you want and they give you a plan, you get those plans and you send them to us. Okay? You send them to us and we look at them and we will tell you which ones sound the best to us. Beyond that, you're looking for people who are qualified and have the certifications that you're looking for. Members of CEDIA. would be a good sign. Have somebody on board that does is THX certified for video calibration. Having somebody on board that has as a contractor, or they have a contractor they work with that you can look up, Better Business Bureau stuff. All of that, you really have to really be careful, because once you let these people in your house and they start building, you're kind of at their mercy, and you need to make sure that not only do they know what they're doing, but they need to be able to describe to you in detail what's going to be done, so that you can tell us and we can say, oh yeah, they know what they're talking about, or I have never heard those words in that order before, and you should maybe walk slowly away from those people. I mean, you can hear what Mahi just said in our last question, and he's looking at all of these different soundproofing options, and much of that might sound like Greek to you. And if it does, great. You need somebody else who's going to come in and know what all that stuff is, be able to say, oh, you don't need this because of this, or you do need this because of that, or I'll do all of that, but you don't need any of it, and it's just going to cost you a bunch extra. That's preferably the guy you want, or the gal you want to do this stuff for you. Somebody who can honestly look at your space and say, okay, there's not going to be that much sound transmission because you're above a garage. I think that's what he said, right? Above a garage. So maybe you don't need this and this, but these other things will make enough of a difference that you should be happy with it.
Yeah, so I mean, he mentioned he's looked into a couple himself, the Erskine Group, and Erskine is well known. They're huge. They're a gigantic installation company. I don't have an experience working with them, but just based on their reputation, they're probably a pretty safe bet. They do, lots and lots of installations. And since he's going for the whole in-wall, things hidden, baffle wall, screen, acoustically transparent, all that, you'll get along well with them, because they are all about the speakers are there, but you don't hear them. So, or you don't see them, rather. Obviously you hear them, but you don't see them. So yeah, I think they won't have any trouble getting into this room and that type of design quality with you. He mentioned another one, Easy Living with Technology, that was found via the CD website. I have no idea about them, and Tom hasn't really heard about them either. So what I will mention, though, our very good friend Ray Coronado. He is not a custom installer himself. He is a professional calibrator, but he does sort of like consulting work, and particularly talking through plans with people to make sure that the plan makes sense and that you're getting the equipment that you need, and the layout that you want and things like that. So he's over at SocalHT.com. So just in terms of consulting with someone who's obviously familiar with this podcast and would be able to help you out, go talk to Ray, because he will tell you stuff straight. We trust Ray a lot. And I would also mention there's a company called the Screening Room AV. They're actually based in Colorado, but they do take on projects all over the place. They're a big time company that does a lot of this work. Very good. And one thing I like about them is they are full JBL synthesis professionals, which is a system we didn't mention when it came to speakers, because I think even with a $40,000 budget just for equipment, it's still too expensive.
That is way too expensive.
Those systems are crazy, but they have in-wall systems as well, based on their based on that M2 technology, which are $10,000 each. So if you're going to go for 11 speakers, you're not going to get that for $40,000. So, but as a company, they're good. So let's talk a little bit about his room, because he's got this bonus room. It's over 30 feet long. It's over 20 feet wide. It's got 9-foot ceilings, and there's some little sloped areas. And over to what is the right-hand side, if we're looking at the image, there's actually like this walled-off area where all of the AC, sort of like the big AC units for his house, they're stored behind their own separate wall and their own separate door. So that's actually good. That means that things are pretty much set up and walled off, and you should be able to soundproof quite nicely from here. Now, he's got some stairs that, as far as I can tell, it's sort of the rear left corner of this room, and they go down from that rear left corner. So this isn't a perfectly rectangular room. There's sort of the area to allow for the stairs to get up to this room. So he's saying he wants to wall off part of this room. And obviously this is something you'll go over with whatever contractor you hire to build this room. They will come up with the final plan, and hopefully that will make sense. But to me, it doesn't make sense to have like a little wedge of space outside of your theater, right? Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Like an almost unusable like wedge of space somewhere just left over so that you can have a perfectly rectangular room. To me, what makes the most sense is obviously the AC room you leave where it is. Now, I think you could sort of construct what I would call your equipment room more or less in front of that, because right in front of where all of his AC is stored is where the sloped portion of the ceiling is. So if he wants to have this nice, more or less flat ceiling in his room, you've got this little area that contains the sloped portion of the ceiling that leads to the AC. You could have that as like a little staging area walled off to what would be like the right-hand side of your theater, where that's where you could store all of your equipment and stuff like that. And that would give you even more separation between your theater and your AC room. And then I would actually kind of use this 20-foot, 4-inch, what is currently width of this room as the length of your theater. Because I think if you just put up that wall, that would create, so you have the AC room, a little equipment room next to it, and then the theater next to that, and then he referred to it as like a lobby that would be to the left of the theater, because you would walk up the stairs into the lobby, you'd have doors into the theater, doors on the right-hand side of the theater into the equipment room, and then door from the equipment room into the AC room. To me, that's the logical layout of this space.
So basically, when we're looking at this picture, it is actually oriented the way he's saying. So basically, at the top of the stairs there's going to be a wall going across and that would be the entrance to the theater, and you would enter from basically the left wall of the theater.
Yeah, the left wall of the theater.
And there would be the screen at the top of the image right here.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. It could be at what's at the bottom of the image right now, but just for the sake of describing it easily, we'll make the top of the image where the screen will be. So yeah, you come up the stairs, that's your lobby, door into the theater on what would be the left wall of the theater, door on the right wall of the theater that would go into the equipment room, and then a door from there into the AC closet. To me, that makes sense. Now, that gives you a 20-foot, 4-inch length of the room from front to back. Now, since you're going in-wall speakers, your baffle wall doesn't have to be super deep. It can be 1 foot deep. That is fine when you're using in-wall speakers. If you were using traditional speakers, you'd want that baffle wall to be 2 or 3 feet deep, but you're not using in-wall speakers, so that's great. You've only lost a foot there. And then you're going to want 3 to 4 feet. I mean, if you could get 4 feet from the back of the back row to the physical back wall, that'd be great, but 3 feet is totally fine, right? So basically, you've gone to 19 feet 4 inches by building the baffle wall, subtract another 3 feet, right? So you're at 16 feet for what effectively is the range there. So I think if you have your back row about 3 feet from that back wall, the baffle wall about 1 foot deep, and you have about 5.5 or 6 feet between the rows, now from the wall, from the screen wall to your front row of seats is going to be in between 10 and 11 feet. That works out really nicely if you want to go for like a 45 or 50 degree angle screen, because that can be like a 135 inch if you're going 16 by 9 and still get you that size, which is great because you're not going to be going for a $60,000 projector or even a $35,000 projector when your total equipment budget is $40,000. If you want to do HDR, you need to go to the at least under $10,000 for the projector, and they're not bright enough to go much larger than a screen that's about 120 inches in width. So I think this all works out really nicely if you do it that way.
I don't think he needs a foot off that front wall. I don't see any reason why he doesn't need anything more than... I mean, if these are going to be in-wall speakers, he really doesn't...
Like 6 inches?
He doesn't even need that, hardly. I mean, they're going to be flush-mounted, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be basically flush-mounted with it. You could take the grill off at this point because you don't need it, right? So you can actually skip... I mean, you want the acoustically transparent screen so that you can put the center behind it. But other than that... That can almost be flush mounted to the wall as well. I mean, it could be very close. It could be within 4 inches, 3 inches, and then you're just stretching fabric across it. Now you might take it out another. So let's call it 6 inches. 6 inches. Sure. That gives you enough room behind there for your whatever panels you want to put, so they'll be completely covered and invisible back there, and more than enough room for your in-ceiling speaker, your in-wall speakers, and your in-wall center and everything else. I mean, it's very little that you need space-wise on that front wall, and that gives you just a little bit more room to get those back. Make sure you have enough room for your rows that that we're talking about here.
And he was saying it looks like you could get 15 feet wide doing this. That would be fine for like a 4-row seater. Like let's say you do the love seat in the middle, flanked by 2 chairs.
Yeah.
You might not have like a 3-foot walkway on either side, but you can have like a 2.5.
He's going to go with home theater seating. There's no way in this theater like this that he's going to have home theater ceiling.
So to me, 15 feet wide, 20 feet long, that works. Yeah. That's okay.
You can get the ones that are bowed a little bit, so they kind of angled in, and that will save you a little space on the sides as well. Just a couple of inches on the side. You get 2 rows like that, and you're good to go. Yeah. All right. Is that okay? I have to click back to figure out where I am.
Okay.
All right. Do we have anything else to say up to him?
I think that's it for today.
All right, good. Well, I'm sure we'll be hearing from him again very soon. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.